Hey everyone, it's Jen B, and welcome to my studio. In today's video, I'm going to be taking this lovely heart brooch that I got from Doug at Raven's Chest and turning it into a ring, because as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to have it to turn it into a ring. I think I'm going to make it for the ring finger. We'll see. I think that was the size ring that I made. Here's the ring shank. I've already made it. This is low dome number 3, and I've gone ahead and formed it to a size 8 and then filed the tops flat so that it'll sit on the back of the ring. This should be a fairly quick project. While I'm talking, I'm going to switch this around. All I have to do is unsolder the brooch mechanism, clean up the old solder, and then solder the ring. The only thing that I have to think about is this heart is hollow, and once a hollow form piece of jewelry has been finished, you don't want to heat it back up because there's air trapped inside of that hollow form. And once it is heated and expands, the piece can explode and be quite dangerous. And as I'm looking at this piece, there is no hole in the piece, which means I need to create a vent hole in this before I do any sort of heating up or soldering, because I do not want this to explode in my face. So I'm gonna drill a little hole right up here, and then after I get the ring shank soldered down, I may solder a little cartouche over it to cover that hole up. But first thing I have to do is drill a hole to have an air vent. Okay, so let me get set up for that. I was just working on Leslie's piece that I am making for her. Leslie at Black Dog Vintage wanted me to make her a ring using this little guy right here. Hopefully you could see that. So that's what I've been working on all day, and I am just about finished with that. Just waiting to hear back on exactly what size she wanted me to make her ring shank. I'm making an adjustable one, but all that will be in the video. So I figured while I was in the studio and waiting to hear back on that, well, now I can't even remember if I actually sent the text. Oh, isn't that typical? Yeah, that's pretty typical of me. Well, I will check when I'm done drilling this hole to see if I actually before I drill the hole, I am recovering from, believe it or not, another illness. I don't know, there's some nasty stuff going around out there, and my son and I went to a really fun story time at a museum, and we both came down with what I believe is the flu, because, well, it felt like the flu. All right, so I'm going to take this little ball burr and just create a little divot right where that mark is. Sort of right where that mark is. Oops. And that is just so that my drill bit can sit in there and not go flying across the piece. So if you hear it in my voice that I'm a little hoarse, well, it's because I was sick. All right. me get this drilled. Not applying any pressure to it, just letting the drill do the work, and there we go. We are through, and yay, we have a vent hole, and the piece will not explode on us. Okay, so now I feel comfortable heating this up and unsoldering this part. So I will see you over at the soldering station. Oh my goodness. I'll see you over at the soldering station. Okay, I have got the heart just set up in some pumice. Let's see if I can get this brooch mechanism removed. Hopefully without an exploding hollow form. Ooh, very nervous. But, you know, I drilled a hole, so I'm telling myself it's okay. I'm not really talking, sorry about that. Just trying to get this up to temperature. Got one side off. There we go. And see my tweezers. So I'm gonna grab some pliers real quick and fix those while my torch is on. I'm also just letting the hollow form cool off naturally a little bit, because if you put a hollow form in the water immediately after it's been heated up, that the air inside is really hot, and it comes out and it kind of creates like a little geyser. So you don't want to do that. It turned a really interesting color, didn't it? Oops, you can't see that. I don't know why that's green. I have never ever seen. Huh. That'll turn green. Okay, I'm going to throw this in the pickle. I will later have to make sure that I clean out all the pickle. And to do that, I use a little syringe of water or baking soda water to get in there and neutralize any pickle, and then use canned air to get in there and get all the water out. So I'm gonna get this in the pickle. Okay, I have got this piece out of the pickle. Like I said, I rinsed inside the hole with the baking soda solution and then used canned air to get all the water out. And okay, so now there is still some water coming out, so I may need to open up that hole a little bit more, and yeah, I think I'll do that. Just get that opened a little bit more so that I can really get all of the water out. Put on my safety goggles, and then I have to go see if we have another thing of canned air. Probably a little bit bigger bowl than I really want. Okay, now we've got a nice size hole in there. or I should say a little bit bigger of a hole. It's not. It only went up like 2 millimeters, not even 2 millimeters, 0.2 millimeters, I think. Okay, I'm back. I had expanded the hole and used some more condensed air to canned air to get the water out. And I did want to show you, when you take a piece out of the pickle, it kind of looks like this powdery white color. And that is the fine silver that gets drawn to the top of the piece. And you can use a brass brush to kind of polish that back up. Doesn't that look so pretty? Oh, it's gonna be so pretty. Yay, I can't wait to have this as a ring. And I was noticing Kirsten in her show this past week. She had on a ring just like this that somebody had made from a brooch. Okay, I just put on a mask, so if I sound a little muffled, that's why. I am going to start filing down these old solder spots. I'm going to sandpaper roll here. I need a file actually. Don't want to file it. I could still see those solder spots a little bit. But I also don't want to file too much because I don't really know how thick this back plate is. I can kind of see in the hole how thick it is, but I don't want to take it too far and then have gone. Take off my mask. I don't want to take it too far and make that back plate really weak. So I think I'm gonna stop there. And I will just call it good. And I'm gonna polish it a little bit through the grits of the radial disc brushes. Then I'm going to bring down the solder. Okay, I think I've got this all set up right where I want it to be in the middle. I'm going to attempt to not use a third hand to solder this ring band on, since it's got the flat parts on it. I'm hoping that it will just balance there and I don't knock it over. Now, I don't know if I can do that because I know me, but I'm going to try. I am going to use medium solder for this because I am then going to use easy solder to put a cartouche over that hole. So, all right, I'm just going to start to get this prepared with the flux. Try real hard not to knock that out of the way or out of place. It is so hard to talk and do this at the same time. You know, most of my videos have been done with me just doing like a little voiceover. So doing the video, sorry, I'm going off camera so I can, or off the screen so I can spray the other side with flux. But I've been doing voiceovers for all my videos, and that's a lot easier than talking while I am soldering. I don't have too hot of a flame here. I could turn my torch up a little bit. So I'm just bringing it up to temperature. I'm going to add my solder. This is the part that I'm nervous about, knocking these over. So hopefully I can just get the solder chips right in there without knocking the ring band out of place. Ooh, get over to the ring band. Okay, they're in place. I'm going to grab my pick because they might move as the flux dries from the heat. We shall see. Trying to focus on heating up the heart because that's where the bulk of the metal is. The ring band is going to get plenty of heat. Here we're getting close. You can see by the flux is changing colors. It goes a little glassy. And that tells us that we are coming up to temperature. Okay, and there the solder flowed. Hopefully it flowed in between. I'm going to go for a spin, making sure that I'm pulling that solder all the way around. I did see it kind of go up the ring shank a little bit. But spending a little extra time really making sure that the solder got pulled all the way around. Okay. Again, I'm going to let it cool off, just sitting in the pumice for a second before I quench it because I don't want a geyser of hot steam water to shoot at me. Okay, I am over at the soldering station and I am about to prepare a couple of cartouches with solder on the back so that I can sweat solder these to another piece. Sweat soldering is just a technique of adding solder to a piece and then attaching it to another piece. So that is what I'm going to do. Just getting everything set up. So I'm going to get these heated up and add my flux. And then I'm going to add my solder chips to the back of the piece. Once I get that solder to flow, I'm going to use a pick to spread the solder around on the piece, because I really want to try to make sure that the solder gets all the way to the edges of this little cartouche so that it gets soldered down completely all along the edge. So I kind of thought that might happen. Just going to heat this up, put that little piece of solder back on there. So I've got a pick handy. This is my easy spreading pick, is what I call it. It's just a pick that I use to spread easy solder. So we're going to get this up to temperature, get that solder to flow. There it goes. Then I'm just going to use my pick to kind of smear without melting. That's always a trick. Get it to flow, spreading it to the edges. Might need to be cleaned, it's a little sticky. All right, got that one done. We'll do this one. Clean up the temperature. There we go. Thing about easy solder is it flows very quickly. This stick is really sticky. It really is wanting to stick to that solder, so I gotta clean that off soon. Okay. Those got the solder nicely spread, or I spread the solder nicely on those, cool them off, quench. These don't technically need to be pickled before I add them to the piece. I will just use a little bit of sandpaper to clean off that dirty flux, and then I will get them added to their respective pieces. Okay, it is the next day, and I have let this piece really dry out overnight to make sure that there's no water or baking soda solution left in there. So I am just about ready to finish this piece up. I want to see if I can remove the excess solder that's spilled onto the ring shank. And then I will close up that little hole with the cartouche, patina it, throw it in the tumbler, and then this is going to be finished. So I'm just going to use my half round file to get in there and gently file off that solder. I'm going to have to go back and polish this a little bit. That's okay. Maybe it's people will get in there. Okay. Okay, I am over at the soldering area, and I am just getting this set up and braced in some pumice. I'm going to use the little cartouche that I made in a previous clip to cover that hole. So I'm going to sit down and get that into the position that I want it. It does already have flux on the back. Solder on the back. And I am curious to know what your opinion is on adding your own mark to a piece of jewelry that you have modified. If you're taking a piece that was created by somebody else and you modify it, reuse it, upcycle it, whatever you want to call it, how do you feel about adding your own mark to that work? I was discussing this with somebody else, and he said in the industry that he's in, or in an industry that he's interested in, I should say, they often do that. If they modify something, they add their own mark, their own name to their work. So I don't know. How do we feel about that when it comes to jewelry? I don't know. It's an interesting discussion, I think. All right. Let's get this soldered down. Scoot it back in place. Shouldn't take too much for this to get the temperature to flow with easy solder. It shouldn't take too long to get this to flow with easy solder. Just not ready to flow. I'm just looking for the solder to be flowing to the edges. I'm solid to flow, and really probably gets it. Just making sure that that piece got soldered down completely. Okay. I don't want to heat it too long because now there is air trapped inside that hollow form, and as I said, it can explode when that air is warmed up and expands. So I'm just checking to make sure that that cartouche got soldered down all the way around. It looks like it. Okay, so I'm going to punch it. All right, I am back, and I've got my patina set up here so that I can patina several pieces that I'm working on that need some patina. I use a liver of sulfur gel, and I add it into a container of hot water. This is just boiling water, or water that was boiled in a hot water kettle. And I'm going to squirt a little bit in there. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Let me switch hands here. So I'm just going to squirt a little bit of the gel into the hot water. Get that mixed up. It's very stinky. I call this my stinky water. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Here we go. Just stirring it up with a popsicle stick. Then I'm going to use some tweezers to hold my pieces and dip them into the liver of sulfur. This is a little filigree flower that I'm repairing. Well, not really repairing. It was just so gross and dirty that I cleaned it, and there's actually a pearl that goes in the middle. That wasn't a real pearl. It was just a plastic bead, but I'm going to be adding a real pearl to it. So I dip it in the liver of sulfur, and you can see that it turns black. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 dips and exposing it to air, but that one turned real quick. So that's good. We'll move on to this heart. This is the brooch heart ring. And you can see this one's going to take a little bit longer to turn black. So I'm just dipping it and then exposing it to the air. Helps it become oxidized. You can see it's starting to get blacker and blacker. Then as I put it here on the lid, it'll continue to oxidize. Okay, so I just pulled my piece out of the tumbler. Doesn't it look fantastic? I mean, look at that. It came out exactly as I wanted it to. The patina is perfect. I like kind of that satin finish to it. It is just perfect. Fits great, and this was exactly the vision that I had in my head when I purchased this from Doug at Raven's Chest. It's great. It's perfect. It's wonderful. Thanks so much for joining me for this short transformation video. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.